You're your final year of your degree program, college, high school, whatever it may be, and you're starting to feel lost. And that's okay because for the majority of a lot of students, all they've done in their entire life is school. They grew up remembering going to school every single year in September, and when April, May, June, July hits, that's when their summer starts. And they have gotten so used to this routine, and all of a sudden your life is about to change. You're about to finish whatever program you may be in now, and you're feeling lost and you're feeling uncertain about the future, and that's totally okay because this is a huge significant change in your life, and it's okay to not know what you want to do as the next steps. It is okay to not know what you want to do for your career, and it's totally fine if you want to take a gap year or take some months to kind of explore who you really are, what your interests are, before kind of deep diving or testing out what potential pathways you may want to take. In my opinion, I think we put a lot of pressure on students at the age of 17, 18, 20, 21, 22 to kind of, we put a lot of stressors on these kind of essentially young adults who are still trying to figure out who they are, who really hasn't really stepped into adulthood, and yet we put a lot of pressure on them to make sure that they know what they want to do as the next step. But in reality, at that age, you're actually very, very young. You haven't lived your life or have explored a lot about who you really are, aside from going to school for 8-10 months in a year, and following essentially for a lot of us what your parents told you to do. So it's okay when you're about to graduate, whether you be in first, second, third, or fourth year, and you're kind of lost in terms of what you want to do as the next step. It is a huge step in your life, but one tip that I do have for you is, first off, it's totally fine to not know what you want to do. Take some time to reflect on what you like and dislike in your life, and to see, out of all the likes that you have, what potential pathway or careers that could potentially lead to. The second thing that I would want to mention is you don't have to make the correct first step now. A lot of people end up switching careers or pivoting into a new role, or kind of merging different interests later in life, because it takes time to explore who you really are. It takes time to develop and to really understand what your interests and what kind of skills you have. So although we in society, we have this, rosy glasses, perfect picture of once you finish your schools, you're going to end up with a perfect job, and that's what you're going to end up doing for the rest of your life. But in reality, that rarely happens. The reality is a lot of people, including those who are currently working, especially before the age of 30, they're still really exploring themselves. They're still trying to get a hang of who they really are, what kind of skills they have, and a lot of people, for that reason, continue to go to school, whether it be through continuing ed or pursuing another degree or another course or another hobby interest on the side later on in life, because they later realize what their true passion is. So it's not uncommon to hear people to switch careers or switch out of their existing jobs 2-3 years after being in the job. It's also not uncommon for people to return back to school a few years after working, to kind of hone in on either a new passion, or they figure that they actually have want to develop new skills to go into a new career that requires some sort of pivoting degree. So take your time, don't put too much pressure on yourself, and just really kind of understand that it is not the end all be all if you don't know what you want to do as the next step. And you're also not considered a failure if the pathway or next step that you want to take ends up being not something you want to do. That's just part of the process. It's definitely a learning process. Some people are more lucky and they find what they want to do by chance. And some, including myself, had to kind of develop and kind of try new things and failed a lot of times before finding what your true passions are. So take this as a learning opportunity. For some people, this process might be faster, and for some, it might be slower. But in the end, I think all of us need to do a lot of different reflection of what our skills are and what our interests are. A career is definitely a huge thing in your life. It is a significant milestone, and you want to find the correct one. So take your time, reflect on what you really want to do. What kind of skills can you currently bring, and what skills do you think it's lacking in order to develop and to work in that interest area of yours? And just know that even if the next step that you do take is something that's not what you had initially had in mind, that's totally okay, because you can take another step and try something new in the end.